Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Learned the Secret of Shadow Clone, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Jiraiya could admit to himself that for a ninja he was getting up there in age. For most, this was the time to retire, to teach the next generation from relaxation and maybe settle down finally. How could he consider that though ? There were so many beautiful women to see, so many lands to explore and ideas to put down on paper. He was old but experienced and crafty, willing to fight dirty against upstarts that thought they could take his place. All that said as he walked along with a happy and carefree Naruto hummed along behind him, he only had one wish. I'm getting hammered with Tsunade when we find her. This isn't fair at all. I blame your father. Though he was muttering under his breath, the Toad Sage was still upset. Naruto was happily bursting the rubber balls with abandon. And only after 3 days. 3 calmly forsaken days. If the little brat wasn't family he would toss him in a hole somewhere. Naruto looked up from where he was practicing with regular balloons. Considering all of his chakra control practice up till now, this wasn't turning out to be as hard as the old sage said it would be. Maybe the old man was just getting up there in age and was just forgetful. What was that pervy sage ? Nothing, you mind. We're coming up on the next town. There's a huge gambling tournament going on and that's bound to attract Tsunade. Maybe he'd find a book on Uzumaki seals to toss at him, let him ponder over those for the rest of his life. Losing concentration and popping another balloon, Naruto tossed it and removed another from his bag. No chance of fighting any crazy ninja ? I'd rather not have to hunt wild animals to fix Kubikiri Boko. While he had thought about making that a regular tactic, it was a little excessive. Using the end of a self-repairing blade as a grenade sounded great, until it was time to fix said blade. And while he didn't consider himself a great swordsman, he did at least respect it and Zabuza's memory enough not to just go ham on some animals. Jiraiya nearly told the kid to go wander through Iwa, there'd be plenty of blood for him there, but stopped himself. Even now the kid was starting to look too much like his father. And after his little bombing, someone was already circulating a new bingo book around with his name already in it. He'd have to keep that info away from the kid before it started going to his head. You never know, we might get hit with bandits or something along with way. Fat chance of that. No smart bandits took on obvious ninja in Fire Country. In fact, a lot of them have been rather quiet as of late. Looking at the kid from the corner of his eye, he considered it was probably the explosion boy's fault. Naruto shrugged and focused on his task, trying to get his best time up to 5 minutes. Should I make a bunch of clones and go hunting for the old lady ? Absolutely not. Or common. I'm recovered and making clones is easy for me. Plus it's not combat. Jiraiya didn't think he'd have to explain it to the kid, but he had to remember that he was just a genin. Tsunade will feel such a mive chakra use and freak out. She'll bolt and we won't find her again until we hit lightning. No, we gotta be stealthy. You get that? Stealthy. I can do stealthy. There's a GL crater not far from Konoha that says otherwise. Naruto grumbled under his breath that he absolutely could do stealthily. He had painted the Hokage monument after all, in broad daylight. Everyone seemed to forget that. Fine, no clones. Should I take off my headband ? Jiraiya nodded, yeah, and seal up the giant pig sticker too. Hi, I'm on it. Taking off his headband and stashing it in a pocket inside his jacket, he then sealed the large sword from his back to a special seal on the inside of his wrist. Smiling at seeing his work paying off, he went back to working with the air-filled balloons. He still hadn't popped this one and he was determined to keep it that way. Hey pervy sage, got a question. What up kid ? How do you determine your elemental affinity ? Oh, that ? just needs some chakra paper. Why? You curious ? Didn't know you even knew about affinities already. Jiraiya was already rifling through his own pockets, sure that he had a scrap of the paper somewhere. Yeah, well, Kushina's notes mentioned it and some of the other training scrolls brought it up for chakra control exercises. Wanted to get a head start. The old perv did say the Rasengan wasn't complete, And what better way to complete something than tune it to a nature question mark? Not that he'd start that until he learned how to throw it, however. Aha! Pulling a scrap of the paper free, he handed it over to Naruto, who stopped his practice to take it. Just add a little chakra to the paper. It can burn, crinkle, crumble, get wet, and split in two. In order that represents fire, lightning, earth, water, and wind. If you get combinations of results, that usually means multiple affinities or possibly a hidden bloodline. Watching Naruto channel a bit of chakra and the paper split, the man nodded. Wind. A little rare for a leaf nin, but not unheard of. Naruto nodded while handing the paper back to Jiraiya. If he remembered right, he saw some mention of control techniques for wind nature. But he'd have to wait for when he got back to Konoha before starting that. Once again focusing on the ball in his hand, he only half paid attention as they finally crested a hill to see the town they were meant to search for the next few days. Tanzaku town had a large castle to its rear, while on all sides was surrounded by a high wall. Currently hosting a festival, it was a high chance, according to Jiraiya, that soon it was here. So after some time and making their way into town, booking a hotel, both set out with today's goal of finding the legendary ninja. For Naruto, that meant watching Jiraiya wandering off in the direction of brothels with a grand smile on his face. Deciding that the pervert was going to catch something one day, Naruto went in the opposite direction. Secretly unsealing a balloon, he continued his practice as he walked along. It was a lively place, this town, and it was nice as far as he was concerned. No one looked at him like he was dirt here. If anything, barely anyone looked at him at all. He was just another kid in a sea of faces, and the true anonymity was refreshing. So he wandered while keeping an eye out, enjoying festival food and even buying a black Oni mask for the fun of it. Though eventually his wandering took him along a route that dumped him in front of the castle itself. Apparently a major tourist attraction, but as he walked further and further in, seemed to get more and more empty until he was alone along some back road. He could have took to the rooftops, but he didn't see the need. Jiraiya was fooling around, so why shouldn't he? Though his senses picked up someone with chakra. No, someone's coming his way. That couldn't be good. Feigning ignorance while continuing to play with the balloon, he was not prepared for the pale face that walked out from the intersection ahead of him. Oh, look what the snake brought me. Orochimaru was all smiles at the moment. Finally given a chance to meet the little pain in his. Anger and hatred threatened to boil over in his chest, but he kept it under tight control. Naruto now knew just how much of a threat Asanan was. And seeing his partner, Naruto was getting the idea that he was in some trouble. Preparing to flare his chakra and damn the mission, the boy however paused as Kabuto held up his hands in a surrendering manner. Wait, Naruto-kun, we just want to talk. Not fight. Naruto didn't let the frown leave his face. You off the third, I don't have a lot to say to you. It wouldn't take more than a thought to create 100 clones and start bombing the snake. He may not be able to take him down, but he'd certainly put the hurt on. Orochimaru nodded with a fake frown on his face. A necessary evil, I'm afraid. Seeing the boy bristle and start to pull chakra, the snake let a thought loose. After all, I knew the third longer than you. Do you really believe he was as good as he showed you? No, my boy, he's done a lot of dark things you haven't even dreamed of. Pausing, the boy did not relax, however. What do ya mean? The Hokage was the Hokage. He was the pinnacle of what it meant to be a ninja and a leader, meant to lead and protect everyone. It was still his own dream to take that hat one day and follow the example. Orochimaru sighed. I don't have much time today, but just a few thoughts for you. First, Orochimaru motioned for Kabuto, who removed a book from Orochimaru's robes, avoiding jostling his limp and broken arms, and tossed it to Naruto, who caught it in surprise. How is it that you're apparently the only Uzumaki, but books from the clan are all over the village? The academy, the library, the archives. The Forbidden Scroll itself is full of Uzumaki works. And 2. Here Orochimaru paused to make eye contact with the boy, making sure to not disturb his chakra at all, for fear of making the boy believe he might cast a genjutsu. Of all the ninja who would have information on your own family, wouldn't that have been Sarutobi? Why would he take that information to the grave? What was he hiding? Extending his tongue to point at the book, Orochimaru grinned. In there is information that you should have received a long time ago. And I have more. So much more. You don't need to decide anything today, but one day. One day I'll send Kabuto for you, when you're ready to hear the truth. Turning away, the man began walking, leaving a confused Naruto's mind in turmoil. Kabuto smiled, though Naruto noticed it never reached his eyes. It goes without saying you should keep this conversation to yourself, little maelstrom bomber. And then they were gone, and Naruto was looking down at the book thrown to him. Flipping through it, it was a book on seals he had never seen before, full of diagrams and formulas he couldn't even begin to figure out at the moment. It was what was on the back cover, however, less than a few sentences that gripped his heart in a vice. To my Sochi Naruto, may one day you continue my work, and live a peaceful life. Signed, Kushina Uzumaki. B. Mask now down and around his neck, reading through his mother's book slowly. Naruto hadn't put it down since he had read the small note to him. He had considered that it was a fake, but discarded that almost right away. The notes were written exactly the same as all of her previous scrolls and books, down to the handwriting and the little repeating terms she used. Of course, there was the obvious that the snake bastard was using or wanted to use him for something. But apparently there was a chance that everyone was doing that lately. How many people knew about his parents already? If he thought about it, it was hard to imagine Gigi, the Hokage, didn't know. But what about Kakashi-sensei? Jiraiya? If they knew, why wouldn't they tell him? Why keep him in the dark? Now wasn't the time to spiral in a circle chasing answers he wouldn't get. For now he'd focus on the book and train. Get Tsunade to help back at the village, and then he'd get some answers. Idly he noted his teacher walking out of a bar. Hey pervy sage, any luck? While he did his best to keep his tone even, it still didn't have the same energy as earlier. Jiraiya scrubbed his hair. Nah kid. We'll just have to pick up again tomorrow. Naruto almost nodded as he finally looked up and looked around the street they were on, not relishing he had made it back closer to the town center. And there, off to their left, was a blonde head of hair, that her? Pointing, Jiraiya turned and promptly slapped his face. Of all the devil's luck. Remind me to take you gambling one day, kid. Seeing the kid shrug with an unreadable expression, Jiraiya led the way into the next little restaurant with a grin. It was walking up to a table containing a pair of women that Naruto thought that the old man didn't do her justice. Under genjutsu or not, the woman was a looker. Well, look at this, I'm just running into all kinds of old friends today. Tsunade's mood was already sour. Sure, she had won a lot today, but that was part of the problem. Winning a lot meant bad things. Bad things she'd rather avoid. And who's the brat? You finally get some whore knocked up? Naruto scoffed and sat at the bar across from the table. If this old perv was related to me, I'd probably blow myself up. Going back to his book, he determined to tune himself out of this conversation. They found the old bag, so now it was Jiraiya's job. Muttering about disrespectful apprentices, Jiraiya sidled into the booth across from his old teammate. You're looking lovely as ever, Tsunade. Cut the shit, what do you want? Working on her second bottle of sake, she wasn't in the mood for the old pervert today. Dropping the act and focusing on her, Jiraiya nodded. I'm sure you've heard about the third? At the woman's nod he continued. Well, the council has given us the mission to bring you back. The Hokage position is empty, and you've been nominated. You're being recalled, Tsunade. Leaning back with a frown, a nervous Shizune looking between the two legendary ninja, Tsunade eventually shook her head. Sir Orochimaru was telling the truth then. The old goat finally bought it. Taking a drink, the unlucky gambler shook her head. Don't want it. You can have it. Jiraiya reached over and took her bottle, taking a drink himself. You know I can't do it. Don't have the clout or respect that you do. Plus think of the good you can do. You could finally get the medical corps up and running. Change squad compositions around, maybe rein in the council? Waving a hand to knock his words away, the grumpy and slightly intoxicated woman denied him. There's no worth in being the Hokage, the hat only leads to death. You'd have to be an idiot to wanna do it. Says the old washout, spending her days getting drunk and gambling her money away. Naruto had tried to tune her out, but while he was rethinking things, he still respected the hat and the position. And to hear her disrespect, it was pissing him off. Bet the real issue is you don't deserve the honor. You wanna start something, you little shit? Like you're any threat. Bet you can't even perform well enough as a ninja to fight. I'll have you know my performance is just fine. Says the drunk bar-san. I widen, tossing off a now panicking Shizune. Soon it had a leg up on the table. Let's go. Outside. I'll put you down with one finger. Slapping his book closed and sealing it in his jacket, the boy turned mismatched eyes to the older woman. Sure, but when I win you're gonna take back what you said. Slapping a hand over his face, Jiraiya gave an exasperated look to his teammate. You really gonna let a squirt like him goad you like this? Shut up, my honor has been questioned. Tsunade was already over the table and following after the other blonde. Shizune was trying to calm her mentor. Tsunade-sama, perhaps this is a bad idea. Like a really bad idea. Jiraiya placed a hand on her shoulder as they left the bar. Jiraiya-sama, control your apprentice. Out of my hands. They're both hot heads who don't listen. Tsunade was rolling a shoulder and working out a kink as she made her way to the center of the street. One finger is all I'm going to use on you, boy. After you lose, you and the pervert are gonna leave me alone. Naruto had his hands in his pockets with a frown on his face, toy mask up and grinning for him. He had a million questions now, but only one way to get any of them answered it seemed. Aha. When I win you're coming with us, and I've got some questions for you. Tsunade laughed. Win? Win. I'll tell you what, if you win against me I'll do anything you want. She may have had a bit to drink, but she wasn't going to lose to some wet behind the ears genin. Grinning, Naruto nodded, deal. And then he exploded, spewing smoke everywhere. Tsunade blinked. Did the kid just, a foot connected with her side, launching her into the nearby wall. Reacting a second sooner this time, a hand came around to grab the next foot searching for her neck. Gotcha. That's more than a finger. And then the clone exploded, flinging the older woman away. She rolled once when she hit the ground before coming to her feet and sliding to a stop. 3 clones almost immediately appeared in front of her, hands outstretched. You're underestimating me, brat. Her fist came down, breaking the street and opening a deep fissure. All 3 clones dispelled, but she noticed a second too late the completion of a shunshin behind her. She. Hand outstretched with a wrist full of exploding seals already primed, the clone had a fanatic grin on its face. Boom bitch. Another explosion, another tossed Sannin. Naruto himself was touching down on the opposite side of the street. You know, I'm 2 out of 3 for tossing Sannin on their S. Looking over at Jiraiya, the blonde boy smiled. I'll make it 3 for 3 one day. Tsunade was already up and ready to launch into a full alt. The little shit had some talent after all. That's rich, brat. Allow me to show you why I'm a legendary ninja. While the night air was getting chilly. Naruto however only smirked as he waved a green jacket in a free hand over his shoulder. I don't know, I'm kinda liking this new jacket of mine. I'd hate to ruin it. Pausing, Tsunade blinked once, twice, 3 times. Was that her jacket? Why was Jiraiya panting and taking notes in that god-awful book of his? Tsunade looked down and noticed that all of the explosions and being tossed around had given the girls a chance to come out and play. Ha, you little shit. Fixing her shirt, she held out a hand for her jacket, blush heavy on her face. Naruto bounced from side to side. You said if I win you'd do anything. And I'm pretty sure forcing you to fight harder than you thought and stealing from you could count as a win. Naruto however had to switch with a clone as the woman simply blurred. You little pervert. Again somehow missing the seals, Tsunade was tossed away. Surrounding the area with clones and seating himself next to his mentor and Shizune, Naruto shrugged. Alright, I've worked off my steam, you wanna calm her down now? Idly he pulled his mask down around his neck. Jiraiya had his very talented student by the shoulders. My boy, you've done me a great service today. I can't thank you enough. It was a memory he would happily within his heart. Worrying over her mentor being exploded and tossed from one side of the street to the other, the young woman among them frowned. This isn't very nice, Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya sighed. She's the one who lost her temper. Watching however as the woman was trying and failing to fight the clones, the old pervert did eventually nod. Alright Naruto, call them off. And give me that jacket. Fiend. Handing it over, the boy too was going to keep that particular memory in his heart for a while. He wondered if Hinata-chan would ever get that big question mark. Seeing all of the clones dispel, the angry older woman turned to exact her vengeance on the little shit stain that had embarrassed her. Only to have her jacket tossed in her face. Donning it and looking at her teammate, she was still seeing red. I should smash you into the ground. Jiraiya nodded. If you were more sober you probably could. But for now let's sit, talk, and figure things out. Turning back to the boy with him, Jiraiya shooed him off. I've got this. Head back to the room and rest that head of yours. Seeing the boy shrug and hop off into the distance, Jiraiya turned back to the woman. Common, let's have a real drink, my treat. Frowning but agreeing, Tsunade walked along behind the man. Jiraiya ? She had one final thought to get of her considerable chest. Yeah, Tsunade ? There's still the viewing fee. The fist that rocketed into the back of his head slammed him into the ground. He wasn't upset over it though. The view was completely worth it. Naruto, however, did not go back to the room right away. Instead, finding an empty lot to sit quietly and read his mother's book. Now that he had taken some time to go through it slowly, it was really starting to get his interest. Time-space seals, teleportation, time dilation, time compression, space compression. More and more it seemed like the Uzumaki overall only worked on the more esoteric abilities of seals. And while some ideas would have to wait, like if he could trap someone inside an explosion, the space compression seemed interesting. He had just scratched the surface of it with what he had dubbed the GL bomb. And according to some of the theories in this book, matter could be reduced and compressed even further. Not willing to even attempt to do the math on how much that would amplify the already lethal explosive seal, he was going to give it a try soon. Not that he'd have a target. You could always try that village of yours. Oh great, his tenant decided to pipe up. And why would I do that ? That's my home. While the fox had been good on his word, and Naruto his, he still did not trust the fox not to try and trick him. Brat, there's no point in attempting to trick you. Escaping the seal would off you, and thus off me. Our souls are linked, bound together till death. And even then, the aged M of Chakra wasn't even sure he'd be free even then. Right, the only reason you agreed to help me at all. Well anyway, why would I destroy my village ? I mean, that village has been the reason behind your current life. The loneliness, the fear, your lack of knowledge concerning all things your clan. Plenty of reasons to choose from to wipe them off the map if you ask me. The QB was remembering his former container, before she tightened the seal on him after he tried to open her own eyes to the truth. Blair, humans and their slave tools. Unworthy. Just cause some people sucked doesn't mean everyone sucked. Which was true. Recently he had connected with plenty of good people. His team, some of the other rookies, Hinata and Ino both were near the top of the list. But what about those that lied to you ? Your Hokage ? All of the other adults in power ? I'm sure that sensei of yours has some questions to answer. The QB hitting home on Naruto's current dilemma, the boy steadfastly ignored him. I'll be finding things out, and just wait, it's not some great conspiracy. Feeling the link between them breaking for now, Naruto himself had to admit that his confidence in those feelings was waning. Now not only had that traitor brought it up, but now the fox ? Shaking his head and slapping his face, the boy got back to work, etching half-thought of seals into the dirt with a stick while reading through the book. Maybe something considered simple to his mother ? A soft that allowed him to imprint seals on a surface. That'd come in handy in the future. Being able to leave behind exploding seals with just a touch. Yes, let's go with that. Distracting himself with work and ideas, the confused Uzumaki spent the rest of the afternoon and evening outside with himself. Eventually, when mentally he couldn't do it anymore, he dragged himself to their shared room to pee out and continue again the next day. The pervert was asleep and snoring loudly and he almost wanted to kick him awake, but he decided that took energy he didn't have. In the morning, after getting an assurance that they would be there for a few days and he should relax, Naruto waved the older man off and went back to training. Attempting to apply his knowledge to his newest idea. But by noon and only slight progress, Naruto was interrupted by Tsunade's assistant Shizune, carrying a pet pig. Excuse me, Naruto-kun ? Can we talk ? Pausing and looking up from the scroll he had been working on, he nodded and leaned back to give the older woman his full attention. Sure thing, Shizune-san, what's up ? Shizune stepped forward so she could sit across from the boy. She let Tonton down to let her wander freely while they talked. I wanted to clear some things up with Tsunade-sama. She really isn't a bad person. Not at heart. Aha, so she doesn't normally go around picking fights with kids and then flash them ? Coughing and trying to manage a blush, the girl smiled, no. But her temper is not the best. She's been through a lot, and sometimes anything to do with the Leaf Village is a bit of a trigger for her. Naruto could understand that somewhat, now having his own secret doubts about things. Still, to belittle the office of the Hokage ? Wasn't her own grandfather a Kage too ? Shizune agreed, yes, but Tsunade isn't wrong. Everyone who's taken the office has perished. And so have many close to her who have sought to claim it. Shizune thought of Dan and Nuaki, two of the closest people to her master, and herself. I'm not saying she's correct, but most of the people she's cared for have died for the village. It's painful for her to think about it. And she's made it clear she never wants to go back. Naruto tried to consider that. Would he be able to give up everything if his important people were taken from him ? Would he come to hate Konoha if Iruka or the Chukis perished ? What about Team 7 ? Or Hinata-chan or Ino Haim ? The longer he thought about it, the more he could see her reasons. But in the end everyone she lost was striving for what they wanted in life, right ? They had a goal, just as she did. She could have D and they'd be left behind, and would she want him to forever live in the past ? Shizune gave a tired sigh, it's a conversation we've had before. I don't know if I'll ever get through to her. But I just wanted to give you an idea of where she was coming from. Naruto was back to looking through his book, understanding that the older woman was done with him. It's okay. I'm not holding a grudge. I'd like for her to at least come back and help heal a couple of my friends and my sensei. But if she takes the hat, well, she can keep it warm for me, I guess. Naruto wasn't foolish enough to say he could take it now. Of course there was the dark part of him that now had a voice, wondering if he even wanted it at all. That however was going to be ignored and buried under his usual focus on work. Shizune stood and gathered up her pet, don't work yourself too hard, and make sure you eat. From there the woman walked away, off to find her mentor and the gaudy man that was breaking up their routine. This'll be the longest they'll have stayed in one place and it was starting to make her nervous. Naruto went back to his work, unsealing his sword and looking it over before laying it into his lap and setting to work. This seal was supposed to be simple and contained two parts. A marker, and a summon. 1. The marker was going to be placed on his palm while the other, the summon, was going on the handle of the sword. Once finished and ink dry, he stood and tossed the blade at a nearby tree. The blade spun, off balance due to the missing length, and dug its way into the trunk and stayed there. Channeling chakra into the seal and waiting, with a puff the weapon was back in his hand. Tossing it again, he attempted to summon it back while it was moving. With a puff, it was again in his hand, all momentum gone as well. That he figured was a success for the day, though now he'd have to bake the seal properly into his palm so it didn't rub off over time. He would need to redo the process with some of his blood mixed into the sealing ink, but he could finish it quick and move on. Because with this test he had proven a couple of things at once. First, things could be teleported instantly, and 2, things within that space were in fact unchanged. Which meant, the next version of his GL bomb, one that could further compress within itself using rapid teleportation of M, was a go. Naruto unsealed a roughly 2 meter by 2 meter sheet of chakra paper and smiled in a way that would have probably had his team trying to steal his ink and brush by force had they been there. But that was okay. They'd meet the big GL bomb. This one was reserved especially for Orochimaru. Sure, the old bastard had made a good point, but if there was one thing Naruto wasn't going to do, was run off with that apparent pedophile. First he showed interest in Sasuke and now him ? Yeah, no thanks. But Naruto would be making plans to get answers. Either from his sensei, or from the next Hokage who had access to those answers. And if he didn't like them, well, he was a notorious prankster for a reason. Mornings were supposed to be a time of refreshment, of starting a new day and preparing oneself to meet it. Naruto's routine had always been the same: first thing in the morning. Clean up, brush teeth, down some food, and then change and train. Unless on a mission that didn't allow it, he always did the same thing. And this mission had allowed him to continue that routine. He valued that routine. He cherished it really. A frantic Shizune and a half-alive Jiraiya was not his preferred way to start a day. Slow down Shizune-san, what's the issue question mark? Lady Tsunade went after Orochimaru on her own. We need to go after her. Naruto was going to look past the fact that the snake team was apparently after the blonde drunk as well. But considering the state of his arms, it made sense. She's gonna be the next Hokage, right question mark? She should be able to handle the snake on her own. Which in Naruto's mind should be true. Though he had only been half joking that the woman was in no shape to be a ninja anymore, seeing Shizune's worried face started to make him worried as well. Fine, let's go, grab the drunk pervert and let's go. MMN Newt drunk. Poison, slurred speech and all, Jiraiya tried to steady himself as Shizune draped an arm over her shoulder. Sure drunkie. Let's go find your other two teammates. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad after all question mark. Gathering up his scrolls and jacket, they were out the window and racing across town. Naruto couldn't see the castle that was supposed to be the main attraction of this place outside of the gambling, and had a feeling that's where their errant drunk future Hokage was. Shizune pointed just outside of the wall. I can feel her chakra there. Changing direction slightly, they all mentally preparing for what was coming. Scaling over the wall and covering the distance as fast as they could, it was Naruto who spotted the woman first. On her knees before Kabuto, face splattered with blood, it took only a thought for the boy to shunshin in front of her with an angry ball of chakra formed in his hands. He'd make some distance, then get with the explosions. Savoring the surprised look from Kabuto and missing the shocked one from Tsunade, the boy drilled the attack into the spy and launched him away. Turning to look back at the older woman, Naruto's anger got the better of him. You just gonna sit there and let him off you? I thought you had more fight in you than that Bar-san. Orochimaru sucked his teeth with a frown. With Tsunade's refusal, this was a lost cause, and he didn't want to alienate Naruto any more than he possibly already had. Uzumaki's secrets were in the balance here, and he needed the boy's blood and chakra network intact and unharmed. My Naruto-kun, you have impeccable timing. Naruto flipped him the finger without looking. Just you hold on, I'm gonna give you a repeat performance from the Forest of Death in just a second. Changing tactics once that oath Jiraiya and Tsunade's instant finally landed, a grin slowly formed on his face. But Naruto, how will you learn anything about your history without me question mark? Well, Tsunade is supposed to be the next Hokage, and since she owes me one, I'll be getting info out of her. While he hadn't brought it up, he figured at this point it was the least she could do. She'll want to help you. After all, she is more like Jiraiya than me. Tell me, how's life been with your godfather lately anyway question mark? The boy froze up for a moment. His guess had been right, the old fool hadn't told the boy. Has he been telling you stories about your parents question mark? Why, the fist that connected to his face belonged to a blonde, but a much older one. You bastard, what are you trying to pull question mark? Rage pushing her past her normal fear of blood, she was finally ready to beat her former teammate into the dirt. Naruto however was turning away, eyes wide and an odd ringing in his ears. There was no way that the pervert was his godfather. After all this time question mark, there were so many questions even with just that. Who were his parents? What were they like question mark? Did they want him, love him question mark? Why did he leave him alone in a village that hated him question mark? Making eye contact with a still out of its age however, Naruto got the feeling he wasn't getting an answer right now. Plus there was the chance the snake bastard was lying to his face. Not like he hadn't before. Turning back and welling up his chakra, he went back to his original estimate for the day so far. Today belonged in the garbage. The field was suddenly covered in black and orange blondes, each grinning and staring all at a certain snake. I'm gonna enjoy this Orochi team. And when I beat the shit out of you, you're gonna give me some straight answers. Kabuto quit playing around. The silver-haired spy suddenly at his side, the damaged ninja grinned. You can try Naruto, but this is a little out of your league. With Kabuto isting by welling up blood on his summoning seal, both of the men disappeared in smoke, rising above the others on the head of the snake boss summon Manda. Orochimaru, you insect. How dare you summon me without sacrifices? Orochimaru was grinning however as he looked down on everyone else. Don't you see them before you Manda-sama? They'll make a fine meal. Manda snorted but turned his head. Paltry. I expect twice the normal amount the next time you call me, or it'll be you on the menu. Naruto was already over it, and directed his clones. That's one big target for me Orochi. Blurring forward behind his clones who were already placing seals all along the writhing and moving snake, Naruto unsealed his sword. He figured that at the least he'd have plenty of blood to repair it. Jumping ahead with a shunshin, he began carving his way up the snake's back. Shizune watched on as the giant snake destroyed just as many clones that kept appearing, while trying to urge the toad sage to move. Can't you summon a toad and help? Shaking his head, Jiraiya denied it. Can't. Chakra still out of whack. Whose fault is that? Soon it appeared next to the two, already making hand signs. You really want me to answer that? You're the idiot who's ready to drop his pants anytime a beautiful woman shows some interest. Don't be so easy. Slamming her hand into the ground, they all rose into the air along the back of Katsuyu. Katsuyu, let's get ready for some acid. She'd be helping the kid out before he offed himself. Deal with the emotional baggage later. A Naruto clone alighted next to them. Actually, you might want to run away, like really far away. Tsunade had her fists balled in frustration. And why's that you why brat? The clone shrugged. Boss is gonna show em what a real explosion looks like. Jiraiya grabbed Tsunade. Yeah, we gotta go, trust me on this. Naruto himself was trusting his clones to follow his plan, which currently was piss off the large snake and make it move further away from the town. Which by his measure, as he came within spitting distance of the snake summoner, was at least a dozen miles by now. Repaired sword on his shoulder, a blood-covered Naruto formed 3 new clones around himself. I told you I was here for a repeat performance. Frowning and motioning Kabuto to stand down while Manda raged at the explosions rattling his body, Orochimaru tried to reason with the little brat. You know I'm right. They're lying to you, Naruto-kun. They all are. And just like any tool, once your usefulness is done, they'll break you and throw you away. That is all any of the Uzumaki were to the leaf. Unsealing a scroll about a meter long and now having 6 black bands encircling it, the boy made her in the snake's hide and shoved it in. See, here's the problem, team. You might be right and the leaf is gonna have its day of reconing one day or another. But because you're such a flaming hole, just no one wants to give you the satisfaction. And shitty old man or not, the Sandime was all I had for a long time. And you offed him. So send Kabuto for me if you want, but I'm gonna have to send him back to you in a bag. The scroll under his foot was starting to glow. You aren't the real one, are you? Oh no, boss switched out like as soon as he summoned the scroll. Clone grinning as the other 2 raced forward, the last clone allowed the Kubakiri Boko to puff away. If you make it out of this somehow, I'll be happy to blow you up again though. Kabuto. And then there was heat and light. Back with Tsunade and the others, now several miles away from the battle, the Naruto clone gained a funny look before the real Naruto replaced him. Covered in blood and his sword being summoned to his hand not a second later, he turned back towards where the snakes were. Probably not going to want to look that way. Bringing up the black mask for the coming smoke, the boy turned away and covered his ears. Tsunade gave Jiraiya a strange look as he copied the boy. What do you mean don't low? There was a flash of intense light and heat even at this distance, then the very earth began to shake. An earthquake rattled them and had them all covering their ears from the noise. If Tsunade tried to describe it, it was like every explosion she had ever heard was suddenly made all at once in the same place. Then came heat and a shockwave that on instinct Katsuyu pulled them all inside of herself to protect them and ride out the blast. And even then, they could still feel tremors as they all tried to turn to see what had happened. As the tremors eventually subsided and Katsuyu let them all free on the ground, albeit slowly, everyone looked on in awe at the truly mive mushroom cloud that stood where Orochimaru was. Naruto however turned away with a sigh. One of my clones noticed the bastard slip away. I'm gonna need a version that slows him down or something next time. Or maybe something that pulls in the target first before exploding. Muttering to himself and he mentally began making plans, the prospective Hokage looked down at the boy. What the hell is that? Pointing at the rising cloud of dust and ash she watched as the boy shrugged. That is GL Bomb version 2. Twice the Yildiz version 1. Who knew using tungsten instead of random metal would do that? Waving her off he turned his attention to a more recovered Jiraiya. Now having spent some time in the very helpful slug summon, Naruto ignored the beast as summoning itself. So, was he telling the truth? Said casually but mask still on his face and covering his mouth. All the old sage had to go off of were his eyes. And those were cold. Jiraiya weighed telling the truth to the boy. On the one hand, it'd only get worse if he lied about it. On the other, if he told him now, he'd probably get the shit kicked out of him from here till they were back in Konoha. The decision, however, was taken away from him. The old goat being your godfather? Of course it is. What's the big deal? Tsunade, however, didn't see the issue. It wasn't like the toad hadn't been watching out for the kid. While she wasn't involved, she had gotten news about the kid. Jiraiya not able to help himself, bragging and sending letters. He had been insufferable those 9 months. Ah, thanks, Ba-chan. Naruto was turning away, sealing his sword away and throwing his hands behind his neck. It was going to be a long walk back to Konoha after all. And he needed to find a river to wash off in soon. The smell of blood was thick. Ah, Naruto, you're not mad? There was hope. Maybe the kid was being a little more mature after all. Looking back at the toad sage, purple eye shining, the Uzumaki was grinning under his mask. Mad? Me? Nah. Jiraiya never saw the clone appear at his side with a primed set of seals. Explosion going off and sending the old man flying. Naruto watching him go. I'm way past mad. And that's 3 for 3 on Sannin. Looking between the brat and her flying teammate, Tsunade wandered up to the kid. You wanna explain what the drama is about? Mulling it over, he had to consider that she was truly an outside party. Sure, she was trained by the third, but she had left before Naruto himself had even been born. It's a long stupid story. Grabbing the kid in a headlock under one arm, she grabbed Shizune and started walked. We have a long way to Konoha, kid. I wanna hear all of it. Thinking something else over, she eventually let Naruto go. She was in a good mood and was always happy to see the pervert get his, so she took off her grandfather's necklace and tossed it to the boy, who caught it with some confusion. For knocking some sense into me. Seeing the boy nod and put it on himself, he finally got to telling his story. She had hoped it might prepare her for the shitstorm she knew she was about to walk into. Though as they walked and talked, her ire rising and falling with each story, she reevaluated that thought. There were a lot of people in Konoha who were about to have a bad time. Now who was going to be the reason behind it was still unclear. It could be said that during normal operations the village council was a slow-moving bunch who could very rarely agree on anything right away so that things could progress. After being shouldered with the workload of a missing Hokage in the wake of an invasion, however, they were quick to see the return Tsunade announced, inaugurated, and behind the desk with paperwork before a week had even ended. The older woman wasn't entirely happy about it, and made her ire clear, but at the same time it gave her a chance to begin making subtle but clear changes and reforms revolving around her specialty. Meaning the Konoha Hospital and Combat Medic program was being revitalized from the ground up. That was her focus on the moment, though she had some smaller side projects to keep an eye out for. Through this time, a tired but resolved Naruto returned to his team with a focus and determination they had all somewhat missed. While the boy no longer needed to experiment with explosions anymore, much to the enjoyment of everyone who had to go back and repair the training ground, he was still hard at work. Now that he knew his affinity and was clear to spam clones again, it was a tired Kakashi who advised that maybe stripping leaves off of every available tree in the area wasn't the best of ideas. The real Naruto, helping his teammates and participating in team drills, disagreed, stating that improving and growing was their duty as ninja. Plus, it motivated Sakura and Sasuke to learn about their own affinities as well. Both hadn't been stagnant while their friend was gone, but they still had catching up to do. Today, however, was coming to an end, with Kakashi getting a promise from all 3 of his students that they would actually relax and cool off training for the evening. Regular missions would be resuming soon with the new Hokage in office, and they needed to get back into a schedule of real rest between intense training. So as Naruto waved his friends off, both promising to get ramen with him tomorrow night, the now introspective boy was on his own. While he tentatively had a goal to end up at Ichiraku's and then head home, he wasn't all that interested in being alone at the moment. It had been good the last few days being with his team. Not having to worry about conspiracies and plots and worrying about who knew about his parents or not. Jiraiya had mentioned that Kakashi-sensei knew as well, but might have been under orders not to say anything. Naruto should confront the older man and ask about that soon. He had been a good sensei, and hadn't played favorites, and now that they all were improving so fast he himself was working harder. Late to training a lot less often and with less excuses. Naruto turned a corner and had his thoughts derailed as he bumped into someone soft. Hand immediately coming up and catching the other person's arm, he focused and found himself standing before Ino and Hinata. Ino Heim ? Hinata-chan ? Sorry, mine's way off tonight. Ino steadied herself with a shake of her head and a smile. It's okay, I wasn't paying attention either. Plus, we were looking for you anyway. Seeing the boy raise an eyebrow and tilt his head, Hinata pulled out a scroll. We have something to bring up with you, but maybe we can go get some food ? And talk ? Naruto was worried as Hinata was looking worried about something. She had been getting a lot better about being able to talk to him. This shy mood was odd now, especially with Ino Heim here. She always seemed more confident with Ino Heim. Sure, what are we in the mood for today ? Ino looked over the slightly more muscular boy, confirming that he had been putting on the M lately. Probably owing to eating better and swinging that oversized sword of his. How about the barbecue place my team usually haunts? Plus we can get a booth and talk in private. Seeing the other two nod, Ino led the way. While the boy had been gone, Ino and Hinata had teamed up to research and put together as much as they could on the Uzumaki within the village. What they had found so far wasn't making them feel any better or confident about what could have happened in the past, but they decided that they should probably bring what they did have to his attention. They didn't want him thinking they were hiding something from him after all. While Hinata wanted to wait until they had information on his father, Ino postulated that he would appreciate even just some info on his mother and some history about his clan. They hadn't been able to obtain Sasuke's help as of yet, mainly because the council couldn't or wouldn't allow him on meetings until a new Hokage was named. Though now that one was, that would change. Not that their fellow young ninja was excited about the prospect. Soon they found themselves at the restaurant and were seated at a table, Ino ordering for them all while Naruto sat opposite to both girls. Hinata took a deep breath before starting off with why they were here. Eyes hardening with focus, Hinata looked directly at the confused boy. Naruto-kun. I kept something from you, not bad. But I had a project I wanted to do, to help you. And while I don't have as much information as I would want, Ino-chan helped and convinced me that we should share what we've found so far. Naruto scratched his neck as he was now really confused about why they were here. Okay. Well, I'm not mad if you kept something to yourself. You're my friends. And you're telling me in the end, so it'll be fine. What could they have been looking up to make them both look slightly nervous ? Hinata pulled out a scroll and handed it to the boy. I had been researching the Uzumaki over the last few weeks. Actually, nearly 2 to 3 months now. My goal was to give you information on your family and your clan. But the records were so distorted and some of it was just flat missing. We were able to figure out a few things, however. Like who your mother is, and some of the history of your clan's ancestral home. I wasn't able to find anything on your father, or what happened to your inheritance completely, other than the council got a hold of it and liquidated much of it. Looking away for a moment, somewhat ashamed for her own perceived failure, the girl was quick to try to reassure the boy, but we're going to keep digging. It's not fair that this info was kept from you. And we both want to help you, however we can. Naruto was stunned, looking at the scroll in his hand to the two young girls sitting across from him. They had taken time out of their lives to look for and compile information that he was missing about his family, all on their own. Sure, he knew who his mother was now thanks to the snake bastard and pervy sage, but his friends hadn't known. That they thought of him enough to even try it made his chest tight in an odd way. Thank you. Ino Heim, Hinata-chan. After relishing on so many people had been lying to him for so long, that he had friends that were willing to cut through that bullshit without a thought was moving to say the least. Ino nudged Hinata, told you he'd appreciate it. Getting the shorter girl to nod, Ino smiled and moved about cooking meat. Apparently your mom was a real bad, had a ton of titles including Red Hot Blooded Habanero and Jinchuriki, though we don't know what the second one could mean. Hinata chimed in now as well, your own file has that term as well. Naruto however froze up, immediately seeking out the fox. What was sealed in my mom ? The old fox grumbled, your mother was my last container. And you didn't think to tell me ? Never asked, little monkey. The fox considered for a moment, before remembering some ancient words of wisdom he had all but ignored lately. When you have some time to yourself, I'll tell you about her. Shaking his head and sighing, the boy resolved to do just that. However, he now had a new dilemma. Did he tell the two girls across from him about the QB and what he was ? He had planned on telling his team, but did these two need to know ? He did have to consider that they had gone through all this effort for him, and had trained with and supported him. Perhaps he could trust them, if not the adults of this village. Yeah, I know what it means. Ino blinked as she was genuinely surprised by that. Granted, Naruto had spent plenty of time in the library, maybe he had been using his clones and picked it up somewhere ? Oh, what it is ? Naruto took some meat for himself, preparing it quietly while he thought it over one last time. It means the power of human sacrifice. Meaning literally the person was used as a sacrifice to seal away a great power. Keeping his voice down though not really needing to in the loud restaurant, the boy watched both girls carefully. My mom was the container of the nine-tailed demon fox. The QB. Hearing both girls gasp as they caught on quickly, Naruto took his plunge and said it out loud, and I'm the current one. Hinata however latched onto what she thought was important. That's terrible. Does it hurt keeping it at bay ? You're at risk from it ? Seeing the boy shake his head, the girl then looked at his scared and purple eye. That's how your eye healed. Naruto nodded. Yeah, Fox said he didn't do anything to it, but purple like this ain't a normal color after all. Internally he sighed, happy that at least Hinata seemed to accept it readily. Ino on the other hand had stayed quiet. So, you've got a huge mountain-sized fox in your guts ? Ino watched as Naruto nodded carefully, and grinning, Ino forked over some more meat his way. No wonder you're such a glutton. Laughing at the absurdity of it, Naruto decided he had to be dreaming. You're not freaking out like I thought you would. Ino shrugged while next to her Hinata finally started eating. We've been around you enough by now to figure out there's a difference between a seal scroll and its contents. Waving a hand in a matter-of-fact manner, the perky blonde was all grins, and the fox hasn't gotten out yet, and you've only gotten stronger. So I'm not worried. You don't give up, ever, so I'm not worried about you letting the thing out anytime soon. She wouldn't lie and say she wasn't at least a little worried or internally freaked out. But this was her friend and crush who had fought and bled for this village. The murderous fox never would have done that. He was Naruto and that was enough. Hinata herself never even considered the QB as a threat. If Naruto was holding it back, then it was safe, and that was it. She had always admired his will and determination to never give up, and she suspected if he and the fox ever had a battle of wills, Naruto would be the last one standing. Would you like for us to continue looking into your clan ? Maybe we can find something else with the new Hokage's help ? Naruto nodded. Yeah, Tsunade Bar-chan should be willing to help. We actually talked a lot on the way back from our mission to get her. Seeing the surprised looks on both girls' faces, Naruto launched into an explanation on just where he had been the last couple of weeks. From the confrontation with Itachi to his roadside training, to his confrontation with Orochimaru and then finding and fighting with Tsunade at first. All the trails and revelations that followed from there until now. Together the girls sat and listened, asking questions and laughing at some of his antics. Both however clued in that their initial thoughts were proven correct, that there was something major going on surrounding his clan. That he already knew who his parents were now didn't drain their spirits at all, because they had gotten him more clan information that he didn't have before, plus some specifics about his mother. Though Ino latched onto what she thought was the bigger bombshell. You dad, was the fourth ? Naruto nodded, mouth full of meat before chewing and swallowing it down. Yup. Mr. Yellow Flash himself. While angry, Naruto sort of got why no one would have told him about his father. The man was a living legend known across the nations. If the world had known he had a son, well, he probably wouldn't have made it past being a toddler. Ino finally leaned back. That's just, wow. Hinata nodded after taking a breath from drinking a large GL of milk, thinking on it, the resemblance is uncanny. Giving her friend and rival the side eye, wondering if milk was her key, she nodded as well. I mean, there aren't that many blondes in the Leaf Village, and you certainly aren't a Yamanaka. In fact, the more she thought about it, the more obvious it seemed to be. Boy with amashing amounts of chakra with a mysterious past and no records about his parents is actually the secret child of the last Hokage and a super powerful Kunoichi ? What were the odds ? Seeing Ino's gaze and seeing they were past the more heavy topics, The shorter girl sat up slightly straighter so her open jacket could show off a bit. She relished in Ino's pout. Naruto-kun has always been the most surprising ninja in the leaf. Never mind that now the idea she had shelved away in her mind about solving their little love war had more merit. Son of a Hokage and the heir to a prominent clan ? She was going to bring this to her father's attention soon. Counsel be damned. Naruto, however, was trying his best to focus solely on the food in front of him and not the now slightly more animated girls across from him. He may have been distracted, but he was sure Inohime's wrappings were tighter than that a second ago. And now noticing that she was filling out fairly well with her improved tea, he wondered if she or Hinata would catch up with Tsunade one day. Certainly looked like it. Shaking the pervy thought from his mind and cursing the Ero-sanin, he thought of something Ino had told him a while ago. Oh, Inohime, didn't you say you were looking for a way to better paralyze your opponents in case Shika or Choji couldn't help you ? Ino pointed a chopstick in the air. That's right. Can't rely on the boys to come save me all the time. I was starting to think that with my knowledge of plants that maybe I could get into poisons. Well, I could talk to Shizune-san and see if she'd give you some pointers. She's really good with poisons and subtle ninja tools like that. Considering she's Bar-chan's assistant, she probably could help you with a lot more too. For these two that had accepted him with no questions, he'd do anything to help them. Talking to Granny and her assistant would be easy. Ino saw stars and reached over to grab Naruto's hands. That'd be a mashingung. If I could get help with poisons and maybe some lessons on medical basics, I could paralyze my enemies without the other two, and make interrogation easier. Already she was imagining the possibilities. As she returned to eating and missing Naruto's blush, she started making a list of things to ask the older woman. Hinata smiled at the interaction of the two while she finished another plate. She was actually happy at the moment. She didn't have to worry about the judgment of her father or the clan council. She didn't have to worry about her sister or the possibility of her being made the heir instead of herself. This was peaceful, fun, and she wanted it to continue. Outside of her team, these two were easily her best and closest friends. Naruto, however, turned to look at her with a thoughtful frown on his face. Sorry, Hinata-chan. I'm not sure if Tsunade or Shizune would be able to help you with your softs at all. Tsunade is super strong though. Maybe she could teach you how she does it ? He didn't want her to think he was playing favorites with his friends after all. Hinata shook her head. It's okay, Naruto-kun. Most of my softs are starting to revolve around my flexibility and chakra precision. Though I wouldn't mind talking with Tsunade-sama if the ability presented itself. Even if their softs didn't line up, talking with a legendary kunoichi was not an opportunity to pee up. Naruto gave her a thumbs up. Of course. I'll talk to them both and see if they can make some time. Happy that he could take care of his friends in a less lethal way, Naruto settled in for joking and gossip from Ino. He was close with his team and he'd spend time with them tomorrow, most likely tell them his secret too, but these two across from him were a bit more special. And as the night wore on and he finally had to say goodbye, B was happy he had them in his life. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.